In this video, I'll be showing you how to utilize Amazon Bedrock to create an API where you can access over 180 different AI models from companies like Meta, Mistral, Anthropic, and Amazon themselves. You can use this for a wide range of different apps or websites, from chatbots to other AI-powered applications. Let's jump right in. So first thing you're going to need is an AWS account. The second thing is a code editor. And the third is a terminal. So first thing we want to do is make a new directory. We're going to type mkdir, Amazon Bedrock, and then we'll call this demo. So now that we made that directory, we want to cd into it. Now that we're in here, we're going to be using Node to build the API. The directions to install Node are going to be in the description. So whether you have Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever, you'll be able to follow along. Make sure you do that first before you run these commands, unless you already have Node installed. So first thing we want to type is npm init. This will create a Node package. You can keep the package name as it is. Version is fine. I actually like to create okay. For entry point, I like to name this something other than index.js. So we can do like app.js, or you can name it API.js, whatever. That's the only thing. So change that, type yes. Now you'll see we have a package.json file. So let's actually open this directory. For that, you can type code and then so I thought that would work, but command not found. So let's go to Stack Overflow. To open a file or directory, use this command. Okay, so we do, and you should follow along too if you don't have this installed. So do Command Shift P, and then Command Shift P, shell command, and install code command in path. Type in my password. Okay, now it says shell command code successfully installed in path. Now we should just be able to type code. And boom, VS Code will open our directory. Okay, now that we have a package.json file, I'm also going to be using TypeScript for this. But you can use plain JavaScript. I do recommend learning TypeScript though, because plain JavaScript isn't great. So we're also going to type tsc-init. And again, to install this command, the directions are in the description. So this will create a tsconfig.json file. You can leave it as it is. Now we want to create the app.ts file, which is where we're going to be writing our code. So create a file, app.ts. And then just to make sure everything's working, let's do a console log hello, save that. And you're going to open your terminal where this file is. Make sure you're in the right directory. And then you're going to type tsc. This will compile any TypeScript files in your directory into JavaScript. And then we're going to do node app.js. And you can see that it printed hello. So it's working. Perfect. Now let's set up Amazon Bedrock. So before we set up anything in AWS, let's just install the AWS SDK client. So for that, you're going to type npm install, and then the @ symbol, aws-sdk/client bedrock runtime -- save, run that. Okay. So now that that's installed, we also want to install the credential providers package, also from the AWS SDK. So that's going to be npm install aws-sdk, and then /credential-providers, and then do -- save as well. Type that in. So we need these two packages, and then that's all you should need for now. If you go to your package.json, you can see we have these two installed. I'm also using Node 18.20 for this, and my npm version is 10.7. So now that we have these packages installed, it's time to use them. Go to app.ts, and then because this is a ES6 module, we can just do import, and then type in bedrock runtime client, boom, autofill. And then we also want to import from env, from credential providers. And that's all we have to import for now. At the top of the file, we can just declare a constant, and that's going to be the AWS region. And then set this to, we'll just do US East 1 for this demo. Or actually, I think it's supposed to be all underscore. Okay, there you go. Now we also want to create a new Bedrock client. And this is what we'll be calling in our code, and then that will use the AWS SDK to call Bedrock from our AWS account and give us a response. So we can get another const here, call it Bedrock client, and I'll keep Bedrock as one word. And then you're going to set this equal to new Bedrock runtime client. and then pass in the region, which is AWS region. And then you're going to pass in credentials and set this from that from env function. Now you're probably wondering, how does it get the credentials? Well, like, what is from env, right? Which we're not going to go into it, but basically this will either use environmental variables in your account or other stuff, which means we need to set our environmental variables with our AWS access key and secret key ID. So let's do that now. First thing we want to make is a .env file. And then to use this .env file in our Node app, we also need to install .env, and then also make sure you save that. Okay, now that's installed, perfect. The first environmental variable we'll need is AWS access key ID, and then just set it equal to nothing for now. And then the next one is AWS secret access key. Okay, set it equal to nothing now. Now let's get these values. So go to your AWS account, type in IAM, which is user management in AWS. Click on users here or on the left. Then you can see I have one that's called Bedrock API, and it was used 27 minutes ago. So up here, click create user, and I'm going to type Bedrock API demo, then just click next. And then instead of clicking add user to group, click attach policies directly. Then instead of attaching any of these, just click create policy up here. And this will open a JSON editor. Well, I guess you have to click JSON. So click this here. This will open this JSON editor. Now I have this in the description as well, so you can just copy paste it, very easy. I don't think you need this SID thing up here, but whatever. Basically what you want to do is you paste this, and you want to make sure this number is your AWS account ID, which you'll get in the top right of the console. Now you can see the action here that we're giving permission for is Bedrock invoke model, which is the API call, and then also Bedrock invoke model with response stream, which is the API call that you want to use if you're getting a stream back, which means basically it's sending multiple tokens instead of everything at once it generates. So you can pipe that stream and then return the text as it's generating, or like the image as it's generating, you know? Okay, so click next after pasting that. And then you can name the policy like Bedrock API access, and that's fine. I mean, if you want to add a description, it's your account. Click on create policy. Okay, now that we have that policy, we want to go back to that create user, click refresh here, and then just search for Bedrock API access. Then you'll see this is our policy. So we can click on that, click next. And then here, you'll see we're creating a user called Bedrock API demo, and we're giving it this policy, which means these permissions. You're gonna click create user. Boom, now we have Bedrock API demo as a user in our AWS account. Now we still need to get the access key and the secret key. So click on it. Then you're gonna click on security credentials over here. And down here, you'll see a section that says access keys. So you're gonna click create access key. Usually I would just choose like local code for this. And then, it uses, it says something about using a IDE, just ignore that, click next. You don't need to add any tags, click create access key. And then I'll just show this for the purpose of this demo, but I'm gonna delete this key before this video. So if you try to access it, just know it's not gonna work. I don't even know why you would try, but whatever. So this is the access key that we need. So copy that, paste it right here. And I don't think you need quotes, so don't put quotes. And then also copy the secret access key and then put it here. And now that means our two environmental variables are this access key ID and secret access key. Make sure they're named exactly this, otherwise this function from env won't be able to find it in your credentials. Now, if we execute this now, nothing will happen. Well, I guess because we're not importing anything. So let's make sure that we are importing everything. Now I actually lied. I don't think you need .env. This should just work like this. So make sure you just have an env with these variables, though I could be wrong. So let's see. And to check if I'm wrong, let's just craft an API response. So that's going to be const API response. Set that equal to await. Then the Bedrock client dot send. And then since we're using TypeScript, we're going to do, then pass in new invoke model with response stream command. And then also when you tab it in, it should auto import. So if it didn't, make sure you put this up here. By the way, the IDE I'm using is VS Code. So if you like it, you can download it, it's free. Now in this command, we want to pass some parameters, and that's going to be a content type. Set that equal to application -JSON. Okay, what's the error it's getting? Await are only allowed when the module blah, 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 blah. All right, well, we'll just put this in a function. So let's do commands or const send prompt, and then equal to an async function that doesn't take any parameters. And in this one, we can do await API response. And then instead of setting this, well, I guess let's just move this inside. And then now you see we don't get an error for the await. No overload matches this call. Ignore that, just keep typing. Next, we're going to do the body, and we'll just set this to some empty text just to test this out. And then also provide model ID, just set it to whatever, something not real. Let's console log our API response. Save this. And then every time you make a change, you have to type TSC to compile the code into JavaScript. Then let's do node app.js. Okay, so nothing happened, obviously, because I'm not calling the function. So just call the function, compile again, type it in. Okay, so it does say enable define environmental variable credentials. So we do need to use .env, and I'll show you how to do that. So since we already have it installed, just up here. So we're gonna copy this, and I usually just put it at the top of the file. And this says require .env.config. And it's gonna say this, do you need to install type definitions? And you usually do. So copy that command, and that should go away. There you go, now it knows what require is. Now if you save this, you compile again, then you run your app. You can see it did work this time, except we got an API response. The provided model identifier is invalid. So you can see it is working now. And we're not getting any permission denied errors either, which means it's using our key. So make sure you provide this so it uses the env variables. Okay, now let's set up like content type, body, model ID. I'll show you how to set that up correctly to call this API. So this is also depending on what model you're gonna use. So I'll kind of show you how to get the right payload. You're gonna click on model catalog, and if this is your first time using it, you probably won't have access to any of this, but it's very easy to get access. You basically click like request access and it gives you everything automatically. So I'm just gonna test this with Meta, but you can use anything, and this will work for anything. Just make sure you follow the steps for the specific model. So let's change this to Meta, for example, and let's say I wanted to use Llama 3.3. Llama 3.3 70B instruct, right? If you scroll down here, first we get a model ID, which is meta.llama whatever. So copy paste this. We're actually going to provide this in the model ID section. If you want, you can put it in a variable here. So something like const model ID and just copy it there. Also, let me change this. Okay, model ID. All right, now that says the same thing. So we got the model ID down. Now to craft the body, every model kind of has its own payload, if that makes sense. So you can see here, each model is going to have a specific usage. So look down here for the API request. You can see we have to provide the model ID, which we do, the content type, we already do that. Except you probably don't have to provide this, but I would just include it as well. And then the body, which takes an object with prompt and then text, a max gen length property, a temperature property, and then a top p_p property. So up here, we're going to craft a body variable. You can copy this if you want, and then get rid of all of the quotes and the slashes, and then put quotes around. This is where you place your input text, and then you can kind of make this look nice. So now we have a body with a prompt key or a property, a max gen length, which this is the token amount. So this is saying generate only 512 tokens. This is the temperature, which is kind of how the model responds. And then top p_p, I don't actually know what that is. Actually, I have an AI Discord bot I made here, and we can actually ask the exact model. So if you want to use this, by the way, you can download it. Link is in the description. You can add it to your server or add it to your DMs anywhere. So basically, let's choose the model, and then you can type /prompt. Then let's ask it, what is your model's top p parameter? And this is asking 70B, by the way. So it says my model's top P parameter is set to 0.9. This means that when generating text, I consider the top 90% of most likely next words in the probability distribution rather than just single most likely word. This allows me to generate more diverse and coherent text while still maintaining a high level of fluency and accuracy. So that's what that means, top P. We can just leave it at 0.9 for this demo, for this API. Okay, now that we have that, you can craft your input, but since we're gonna make this an API, I guess we can install Express. So type npm install Express and then -- save. Super easy to set up. Just go up here and type const app equals Express, but Express from Express should work. Okay, and then also get the types for TypeScript. And this should go away in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're good. Then here is our app. So that's going to be our API basically. So instead of sending the prompt here, we're actually going to do app. Well, I guess we have to launch it first. So app.listen, do port 3000, and then just say API is listening on port 3000. Make sure you put your semicolons, which I miss sometimes. So now if I type TSC and then I run the app, we'll still get an error for the API, but you can see API is listening. And now that that's listening, let's say we want to make a post route. So do app.post. Call this whatever you want your API endpoint to be. So you can call it /prompt, for example. And then we can return rec and res. So request and response. And to see that this is working, let's do console.log, then rec. It's been a while since I've used this, so maybe like rec.body, I believe. And then let's also do response.bodies or body. I mean, I guess we can try JSON actually. Okay, so now that you have that, you can download something like Postman. So you can make a post request. Okay, it wants me to sign up. Not gonna do that. Okay, so you get Postman, click new, and then HTTP. Set this to post, and then our server will be running on port 3000 localhost. So we're gonna do localhost 3000 /prompt, and then this is probably HTTP. So do that. Then if you click send, nothing is gonna happen. But if we run our app, well, let's make sure this is not being called for now. If we run our app, you can see API is listening on port 3000. And now if I hit it, we get a response. It gives us a 200. Nothing in the body because we're not actually sending anything back. But we do get the request, or we do get the response printed. So everything is working. Okay, so rec.body is actually going to be the parameters you send. And then we want to, instead of logging that, let's do res.status. Then we want to just say 200.send. Then we can provide message or whatever you want to call it. And prompt sent successfully, right? How do you spell successfully? I think it's like that. Okay. Okay, compile, run it, hit it again. Now we see message prompt sent successfully. Perfect. That means it's working. Now, instead of this, we will be sending the response. So how do we do that? We move all of this. Well, you can move all of it, or we can just call send prompt. So let's do const response equals await send prompt. And then it's going to say you need async. So send prompt. Then we want to provide our body here, which is going to be rec.body, right? Okay, for now, let's just send any and then request. So we're sending this rec.body, which we're also printing out into here. So await send prompt, right? Okay, now to send the body response in Postman, we're going to click body and then click on raw, change this to JSON. It'll probably be text. And here we can put our JSON object. And this is going to be this thing. But for testing, we can just put whatever key. So let's put a test key. Then we can also make it just test. And then if I send it, Okay, let's make sure we build this. So it looks like we need to install body parser. So let's do that. And then we also want to use it. So import body parser. So we want to use it as JSON. So just do that. Yes, body parser. Oh, body parser. Okay, there we go. Didn't mean to do that one. Okay, so now we should see our body. Let's compile. Oh, compile, then run it. Then now if you send it, you can see test gets returned, which is what we put in here. So for this API, let's say you wanted to provide a prompt and, for example, the max gen length, and then just keep these two the same. We could just go into Postman, type in prompt, hello, how are you? And then let's provide this max generation length, set it to 512. So these are the two things we'll provide. So that'll get passed into rec.body. And instead of just providing body, let's provide our prompt here, which is going to be a string, and then the max gen length, which is going to be a number. I guess we can just name it the same thing. So here, const body, let's just have prompt, and then max generation length, and we can keep these two the same. So these two will be whatever you provide into the API. Then we can say, just use body here. What does it say? No overload matches this call. Okay. It's not assignable to type blah, 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 payloads undefined. Blob payload input types. Oh, okay. Let's just call invoke model command because we don't need the stream. I don't know what blob payload input types, like what? Okay, so we probably want to do a JSON stringify of the body. So make sure we're providing that in a comma. There we go. And now that will be, your thing will get passed into Amazon Bedrock. So let's do const prompt equals rec.body.prompt. Then we can also say max chain length is going to be rec.body.maxGenLen. And we will call send prompt with our prompt and the max generation length. And we can also set this to response. And here we can check if API response has a body, or if it doesn't have a body, we can return null. Otherwise, we want to return API response.body. Then let's just console log the response here. Okay, we can get rid of that. Okay, now save that and let's send it. Okay, so we got an error and it says validation input. Okay, so this on-demand throughput isn't supported. And I believe this is because the model ID should be us.meta, I believe. Then let's compile, try that, send request. There we go. We just got a response back. This just gives us a byte array. So we have to convert this. And for that, you can use the built-in text decoder. So let's do, if there's no API response body, otherwise we want to return text decoder dot, return a new text decoder and then dot decode. And we want to put API response dot body in there. And then let's see what that gives us. So compile, run again. Okay, boom, there we go. Now you can see the text that it returned, and it says, I'm good. I was wondering if there were more important things to do than studying PSR 11. I don't know why it's saying a bunch of stuff here. I believe actually for Llama, there's a way to send the prompt so it doesn't like say these weird things. And for that, I'm just gonna copy paste this, but basically this will be the formatted prompt. You can copy paste this from the description as well and just put prompt here. And this just tells Llama, you know, the user and then to reply as an assistant and then the prompt, and it should help it understand what to return. So instead of just prompt, we want to set this to formatted prompt. Then if you compile and save, it should give us a normal response. Okay, there you go. So it says, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's great to chat with you, blah, blah, blah. So let's get the API to return this response now that we have it. So we know it's response. So we can say, okay, well, if there's a response, we want to res.status return a 200 with a message that says response. And then we can set this to response. So actually it would be response.generation. There we go. And then if it says property generation does not exist on type string. Okay, apparently this is returning a string. Oh. Okay. Well, we don't want it to return a string. We want it to return JSON. We want to add json.parse and then wrap this around. Then what is it saying? New expression. Okay, this is because it should be here. All right, now this should return JSON. So if you hover over this, okay, it's just a promise. Then now response can be any JSON. So this should now work. If there's a response, return 200, which means success, and then the response with the generation. Otherwise, we do status, and then 500 can send response as well, and then just say an error has occurred. Please try again. Get rid of this, save that, go here, compile, run it, and if I send this over, we get the response. And there you go. That's the generation. You can also change this. So what is the best speaker, for example? Send that. Okay, we got an error actually. This cannot send headers, set headers after they are sent to the client. Oh, right, because this will send, obviously. So here we just want to return. There we go. So that should get rid of that error. Then send that. And then you can see that it returns a prompt. It returns a response based off our prompt. And you can also change this to the tokens like 1024. This is also formatted in Markdown. So if you paste this anywhere in Markdown, it'll look good. So yeah, that's basically how you make an API utilizing Amazon Bedrock. Each model kind of has its own format for the prompts and then the body as well. So make sure you look at the API specification. But this is how you would use it. Let's get rid of this and then this. You can use this as an API, or if your app is Node, you can just, you don't have to use Express. You can just directly call this Bedrock client if you're making something like a Discord bot or anything that runs on Node. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have trouble with anything. I will try to respond and help you out. Or join my Discord server in the description. And yeah, thanks for watching.